and what gets them motivated, everyone complains about how they wish they would actually have more business, and everyone complains that they wish they had a foolproof strategy that would actually help them accomplish their financial goals. Well, when you offer people coaching and you offer people the opportunity to learn something that's what I consider to be in everyone's wheelhouse. I mean, it's not a uncomfortable situation, to say the least, that you're put in. And a lot of the language and a lot of the conversations that we get to have with our clients in this arena really center around what you just said. It's all about providing value and then making sure your client knows how to say thank you to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to me that how many LOs that I've invited onto this call that don't show up. And it's not a disappointment to me. I've coached long enough to where I know, that cliche. The student will, the teacher will appear when the student's ready. And It's funny how when you came to me and had that conversation about financially what was going on, and it was truly an eye-opener for me to see how quickly you shifted your mindset and how quickly you adapted this cultural change and what it's done to your business. I mean, one of the things that I was talking to Scotty about the other day was doing a class. I think you were on the Tuesday, was it the Tuesday coaching that he does yesterday?
No, I don't get on that as much anymore since you and I are doing this.
Okay.
And I let him know that, look, I'm meeting with Doug on Wednesday, so I may not be on that one very often.
Got it. Well, all we care about, and this goes back to the fundamentals of why this company's been successful, all we care about is that that we never want to give you a reason to want to look elsewhere. And the coaching, whether people take it or not, is an example of if you're not hitting your financial goals, but yet you're not attending any of the opportunities to learn and to grow, there's only so much that you can do as a leader before you just have to accept the fact that certain people just aren't ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, man.
And what I love about what you're going through is that because we're able to document it, because we're able to show the evolution of it, and you're the best kind of spokesperson, not even for me, but it identifies with if you ever decide to evolve yourself beyond just being a loan officer for a branch, you now understand some fundamental mindset challenges and mindset some changes that have to happen with people in order for them to realize their full potential. I look back at where you were this time last year.
Yep.
And where you're at this time this year. I think in this, was it November, December? I think your last closing was at the end of October.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you're going to go through October, November, and December with a dry closing month, do you?
No, I don't. I don't think that at all. I mean, I really think I'm probably at a minimum of 5 per month now. And
are you really?
As long as I keep doing what I'm doing, I really think that's going to happen. And I did have a couple push from September to October because of appraisal issues, but it doesn't hurt as much when one falls out to the next month when you have other ones that are already in the pipeline. So.
Well, the momentum, right? It's the momentum. It goes back to what we've always said. It's the want versus need. When you want to work with somebody, you don't have to make decisions based on your financial life to them, meaning that you can let them decide how they want to handle their process. If an appraisal goes and it pushes you to next month, your whole world doesn't come collapsing down, and you don't reach out to accounting and you don't reach out to me, to me or Kevin and try to figure out a way to survive for that month. It's easy to look at your borrowers and go, you know what? If it's in the best interest of you, we're going to work through this and figure this out. And that's that momentum that gives you the opportunity to go, I want to work with you, I just don't need to.
Right.
Dave Brown, one of our branches up here in Indiana, he called me today, and I coach him a little bit differently than I coach you guys, but it's funny because he called me up and goes, I have some amazing news. So I sit down on my chair and I prepare for this huge monumental, news because he's all excited on the phone. And he says, I just got off the phone with accounting. And he goes, there's nothing better than having so much business that you forget about a closing until you get paid on it.
Yeah.
And he goes, the feeling that you get of knowing that, it's like up here in Michigan, it's like when you get out of your winter clothes and you put on your shorts for the first time in the spring and you find that wad of $20 bill, stuck in your pocket, how good of a feeling that is. And he goes, the amazing part is that he's going through a similar transformation and he's evolving his business to the point where he doesn't have to survive, day to day. And he goes, even though I need the money, I just know that right now I've got enough business coming in the door that not every closing is a do or die situation. And he goes, it was amazing for me to get that call and be like, wow, that's an extra X amount of dollars that I just got that I wasn't expecting. Woohoo, isn't that the best feeling ever? And I sat back and said, you know what? That really does sum up the whole purpose of why we do this tracking system and why we are actually in this kind of a conversation with certain LOs. It's because at some point, we want to get you to not have to worry about tracking every closing down to the dollar and down to the day just to be able to survive and go home and look at your family every night.
Yeah. Well, what I have found is that if you're tracking these leads, you forget more, but you don't forget the closing. That's not a good word, but they're not as upfront in your mind like you're talking about, to where you're, oh my God, that has to close today. It's because an example is someone said, hey, you need to lock so and so, and I was like, who is so and so? I didn't even recognize that name. And it was it's a guy I've got in the pipeline that I've talked to just a couple of times. We got the deal in house, and the team up there has just run with it, and they're doing a great job, and I just haven't had to talk to him. And I was like, oh, God, okay, I'll go lock him. I'll figure out who he is first.
Right. Well, Scott, remember, or Scott, because Scott is now joining the call, but Mark, remember what I said? What is your job, and what do you get paid to do these days? Are you paid to close loans, or are you paid to originate leads?
I'm paid to drive leads.
And that's really, and to that point, I think that's a really good perspective. Your job is no longer to chase your closings, which if you think about what it was like chasing your closings, you were always chasing contract dates. You were always trying to, you're always trying to jam it down people's throats. You're always trying to, find a way to cut corners here and there, just because you were so desperate to close that deal, because it was not a want, it was a need. And the amazing part now is that when you actually have gotten to the point where you've got this momentum, it feels like you can really just focus on the origination side of it and know that once you've laid the foundation of that relationship, not only are they advocating your business out there, but more than likely they're going to close with a very, very positive experience. And you start having more of those calls, like, you forgot to lock so-and-so. Oh my gosh, I guess that's really kind of a high-class problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of, I started laughing a little bit. It was kind of funny, but I'm from what you've told me, and I've just learned to celebrate the leads versus the closings.
Right.
To celebrate the leads, it's a percentage game, like you've talked about, that those closings are going to happen based on the leads that you get. So just reshifting what you celebrate.
Say that one more time.
It's just reshifting what you celebrate, really.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. And I was having a conversation with Scotty just a little bit before we got on the call, and we were talking about some other coaching approaches. And I really feel like, and please, you've been doing this long enough, I would like to get your opinion on it. Would you consider this to be a very low-hanging fruit approach? Would you consider this to be very just fundamental relationship stuff, that if you can't do this, maybe this business isn't the right one for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
This whole class has taught me to go after that low-hanging fruit. The current client stuff, your family, friends, anybody that you know that can help you get that business, and business clients and business contacts. And that while realtors are great to have, I think you need them, but it exposes to me that you don't have to have a ton of them.
Right.
If you start utilizing the tools to get current client referrals, past client referrals, and all of that.
Well, a byproduct of this, and as I'm looking at your lead tracker, the byproduct of this is now you become, in a lot of respects, you become the one that's in control. And I promise you, over time, you eventually will start getting calls from clients looking for your guidance as it relates to a mortgage, but also which direction they should go in as far as choosing a realtor.
Yeah.
And, near the end of my origination career, I think I had referred out, in 2013, I had referred out 22 or 24 purchase transactions to my 5 realtors, of which those 25 transactions did not include any sales. Meaning if the buyer was looking to buy a house, they had a home that they had to sell as well.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those transactions were 2 couples getting married, and they were blending in households, so they had 2 homes to sell. So I think it was probably closer to maybe 28 to 29 transactions total. But those clients came to me because of the techniques that I'm talking to you about, and they came to me looking for my guidance and direction, and now I became the expert, and I was the one that was able to set the tone. When you think about the realtor relationships that you have listed on the screen, you look at the Colleens and the Terrys and the Tiffany's and the Michelles and the Craigs out there. How powerful would it be to be a referable source for those realtors? Obviously, you select the people that you want, but how much more power and weight do you carry when you can call them up and go, I have a pre-approved buyer that's looking at closing on a house in the next 45 days?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's huge when you start giving back like that.
Right. And the cool part is that when you're able to give back like that, you literally come from a position of strength, and you come from a position of value that probably no other lender calls on these realtors and provides them. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying you can guarantee them 15 transactions a year, but you become a significant relationship piece to their business because you're building a mindset that helps your clients refer you, which in turn ultimately helps them get referrals as well. And the beautiful part of putting all those pieces together is that eventually the momentum takes you away from having to sit there and cold call people to try to fill up the funnel. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but with your mindset and your skill set and your experience, Mark, there's no question that by this time next year, your volume of business will not only be more consistent, but in a lot of respects, I feel like you won't be, I personally don't think you're going to have to consider yourself a commodity or have to work with those people who don't see the true value in what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So talk to me a little bit about
that point.
Say that again?
So I'm looking forward to getting to that point because it just becomes less and less about rate, fees, all of that. It's just, hey, you're the expert. Tell me what I should do.
Exactly. So talk to me a little bit about your lead tracker for the month of September. Still, 23 leads is pretty strong. I see some reds on there. Help me understand what the red, the green, the blue, and the yellows all mean again.
Okay, so I added one this morning, so I've got 24 as of today.
Nice.
The red just means that they're pretty much a dead deal. They don't qualify for either credit reasons or income reasons.
Do not qualify. Got it. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll put a D and Q over there, and then I'll, under the comment section, and then normally try to list why it's D and Q. And then the yellows are just still open leads that, may be looking or we're having a conversation. So it's not a dead deal. It hadn't been pre-approved.
Right.
We haven't apped them or anything like that. And then a blue one is going to be someone that I've pre-approved. So they're pre-qualified and they're out looking for a house currently.
So how does that differ from like Melissa Martinez versus Scott and Amy Nichols? How are those two different?
Scott and Amy Nichols, when someone goes under contract, that I turn them green.
So okay, so pre-queued. Maybe you may be changing the end of that to, instead of being pre-queued, say under contract.
Yeah, I forgot to change that for you, but yes, that's exactly right. That needs to be
Okay.
changed to in processing or under contract.
So the blues are the ones that are closest to going under contract. Yellows are the warmer. So red are the dead. Yellow is the warmer. Blue are the closest to coming into green, right? They're the ones that have actually met. You feel confident that they're 100% committed to you.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Do you have anything on here that relates to where it would show up if it was a current client referral? Would you put that in the referred by section?
Yes, it would go there, and then it carries over into those formulas on the left-hand side of the screen there.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
If it's, it would be listed as a.
Okay.
Remember,
So
if
no
it's
current client referrals for the month of October.
no.
Okay. Or I'm sorry, for September. Why do you think that is?
I haven't had a ton of people under contract lately. I mean, my closings have they've been building momentum, but so I expect the current client referrals to increase, obviously, but I don't know. I'm asking for them. But they just don't know anybody yet. But it's a conversation I have every time I talk to these people now.
Right.
Hey, who
Right.
do you know? Whereas that
Right.
wasn't even part of my conversation before, but now it is.
Right.
It's who do
Right.
you know right now that's buying? And
Is that what you ask? Who do you know that's buying?
yes, yeah. I forgot what book I was reading, and it may have been you actually, where you were talking about asking the question and then shutting up and letting them answer the question instead
Sure.
of hey, who do you know do you know anybody that's buying? Because blah, 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 and I just keep on going and they forget the
Right.
question. So it's ask the question, be quiet, and let them answer.
Right. I would tell you that one of the things that I would coach you to tweak would be how you ask the question. And a lot of times when we get a question like, hey, Mark, I need to go out to eat tonight. Where would you send me? And right there and then your mind goes, well, gee whiz, I know of at least 50 restaurants that I could send you to, but I don't know what your allergies are. I don't know what your tastes are. I don't know what you had last night for dinner. I don't know if you want a heavy meal. I don't know if you're a vegan. I mean, all these other questions pop up. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
So my question to you would be maybe, or my coaching to you in this case would be, maybe what you could do is ask them the specific question that you're seeking, which is not so much who do you know that's buying, more or less, is there anybody in your life that you know of right now that could use some great mortgage advice? Do you know anybody in your life right now that could use a friend in the business? By the way, if you're at work talking about your home to your partner at work or whoever you're centered around, please don't keep me a secret. I think the more specific that you can ask to the point of the restaurant. Hey, Mark, my wife and I just had a great dinner last night. We had some salads, but we're really craving some good steak tonight, man. I'm not familiar with the area. Do you and your wife know of a great steak restaurant that you could send us to that's close to the Woodlands?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to give me a recommendation to a steak restaurant that's close to the Woodlands?
Yeah. Yep.
Your mind is a processor. It's not a filing cabinet. And so what we have to do when we ask is be more specific about the ask as it relates to the conversation with the borrower. Meaning you don't want to go asking a $417,000 new construction client for an FHA or USDA mortgage. Chances are they don't know that kind of clientele unless that person has some kids. But you'll be amazed when you get into dialogue that talks about, creatively, it's fun because you can have a conversation with somebody about buying a house and you go, so I'm sure you're out there talking to people left and right about buying a home. Maybe even you know somebody right now that's going through the mortgage process. Have they ever explained to you what their mortgage consultant explained to them and how this whole process works? I have always found that in my conversations with clients, I always find creative ways to try to find out what's going on in their life beyond just what they're sitting in front of me discussing. And it's amazing that when you start hearing what's really going on, two things happen. You dig deeper with them and build a relationship, but at the same time, you start uncovering possible conversations that could lead you into the path of, hey, you know what? If your friend ever runs into any troubles with their mortgage, and I know they're out there looking right now, hey, I would love a chance to give them some advice or some direction if they ever feel like they need it. Do me a favor if you don't mind, just pass my name or number on to them and let them know that, you know, I'm doing such a great job for you. Those kind of conversations are significantly more powerful than who do you know that's looking for a mortgage.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
So because I believe that right now what you are is a consultant. Right now what you're looking for is a conversation. So that the statement of who do you know that could use some great mortgage advice leads you to another lead on the lead tracker, another potential conversation that may turn into a closing, which is not really your job. Your job really is to have 30 conversations a month. The ratios will take care of itself.
Yeah.
But inherently, that conversation gets you a chance to engage with what you believe is, you know, your value, and by that point, they're sold on it because it works.
Yep, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Good information. Yep.
Awesome. So, hey, Scott, welcome to the call, buddy.
Hey, I'm sorry about being late. I got a closing at 3 and still trying to get a corrected HUD.
We'll let you not stand in the corner today, but next time you're going to have to stand in the corner for the whole call.
Hey, yeah. But then Crystal's with me. Crystal's standing with me, but she'd be probably the one who'd get me kicked out of class, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, listen, you're on the phone with Mark Zachary. I don't know if Scott and Mark, if you guys have ever met each other.
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think we have.
Hey, Scott. Scott's been a loan officer with us now for about a year. He's going through some very similar evolution process that Mark, you went through several months ago, and he's kind of getting to the point where he sees that he has to really engage with his business, but like a lot of us didn't feel like they found the right way to do it. Like Thor's hammer is maybe not the best tool for everybody. So Scott came to me and was asking me, you know, what I thought. My conversations kind of led me into, you gotta really sign up for this call and be a part of it, because we've got some great success stories right now with two specific LOs, and Ryan Miller and Mark. So Mark, could you do me a favor and just kind of share with Scott, maybe from a very organic level, where the transition for you changed and what has happened over the last couple months, and why it's been so impactful for your life and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we started this call in May, May or June. I don't remember which, but Scott, I wasn't tracking my business at all. I was writing down my leads in a notebook in my spiral and in the car, and I was writing down leads everywhere, and I was not tracking where they were coming from, if it was a purchase, refi. It was just, I wrote down a name and a number, and
I know that one.
So we were talking about that, and I was getting real frustrated. And so on this call, it was Doug has just emphasized and reemphasized the importance of tracking everything, every lead that comes in the door, good, bad, or ugly. Get it down on a sheet and track it, because if you're not tracking it, you have no idea where your business is coming from, where it's headed. And so I had put together this spreadsheet several years ago, and I just stopped using it because I just stopped tracking my stuff. And you know, I was bumbling along at, Doug, some months 0 closings, 1, 2 closings.
Well, to the point, Scott, where October 31st of 2014 was the last closing that Mark had in 2014. He went November and December with no closings, which, if you think about it, meaning that he didn't have any income stream coming in for December and January, which for any of us knows that if you're talking about being the primary breadwinner for the family, it's a huge burden that you have to shoulder.
Sure, very stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went from, you know, closing less than probably $250,000 a month to this last month, or this current month, September, I was scheduled to close like 1.2, 1.3. Several fell out and went into October. But still, even with the fallout, I'm going to be closing right at 700,000 in October. I mean in September, and then October now is up to 8 closings at 1.3 million. So just tracking where my business was coming from and staying on top of it has been just life-changing for me. And
hey, Mark, I got a quick question. Do you do like, you know, do you take it from this sheet? Do you take like all the pre-quals and the current in process to another sheet, or how do you keep the current month? You know, because Doug's saying like a 3-to-1 ratio, like, you know, if you want to close, say, 10, you got to have 30 leads, or, you know, something along that line. I'm probably not correct with what you teach, Doug, but something like a 3-to-1 ratio. So obviously you want to keep each month to have, you know, because that's going by that. Do you have a cumulative? Do you take this sheet to another sheet, or how do you do it?
I don't have an accumulative. No, I don't have an accumulative one, but you'll see a tab down there in the bottom left that I was going to start that. It says 2015 year to date. I haven't done anything on that because I
so
need
what are you going to do? What are you going to do October? Do you just delete this sheet and start a new one, or?
Yeah, Scott. No, if you look at the bottom of this spreadsheet, you've got June, July, August, September. So he keeps it all listed, and so at the bottom of the sheet, it started in May. Look at this. In May, he had 17 referrals, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them were dead deals. Come September, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dead deals that are not qualified. But look at all the blues, the greens, and the yellows are all people that are effectively very strong potential clients.
Okay, so it just
if you simply look at the colors, I love the color coding, because if you look at it from a snapshot, look at May and then look at September. I even feel like September is going to be a significantly more powerful closing month or lead month.
Sure, absolutely.
It tells me that your November, based on this lead tracker, your November is going to be 100 times better than last year's.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if you remember, Doug, we looked at, as we started tracking this, we were looking at July, and we would say, you know, based on July, you're probably going to have a good September or October, and there, I mean, it's come true. I mean, all those guys that were blue at one time have now become closings in September and October, and it's just crucial. I mean, tracking your business, Scott, it's just a must, and it's changed the way I do business.
Are these ones that you actually pull credit report on every one of them, or I mean, I'm just trying to get the true definition of, you know, the lead. You know, I mean. Yeah,
not necessarily. Like if I look at a red one and I run debt to income ratios and I see that they're, you know, 50, 60%, then, you know, based on what they're already telling me, then I don't go and run a credit report. Most of them I do at least have a credit report on, or I wouldn't put them as, you know, not qualified. But if they tell me something right off the bat, hey, I had a foreclosure last year, then I know that they're not going to qualify, so I put them in red right away. But if they're in blue,
you log them at least. Yeah, you at least log them though. Okay.
Yeah, I at least log them in there. So because, you know, they may become a good deal 2 or 3 years down the road. I'll put these guys into Salesforce. This is what our CRM is, and, you know, it just stays in touch with them.
All right. No, that's I'm beginning to understand. I'm a little slow. I'm like Forrest Gump, but I'm getting here.
Well, hey Scott, one of the things that Mark does extremely well, which I think you might be lacking in a very basic point, is Mark tracks all of his realtors. The people that you see here on the bottom screen, these three categories, are all of his agents that he's either identified, connected with, dripping on, or some way, shape, or form making himself a relevant in their life. And so as you can see, he's making contacts with, he's got his top 50, which are listed here, but he doesn't have 50. He has, what, 22?
You rounded up or down. Yeah, no.
He has 23. He has 23 agents that he drips on. But look at the 23 agents that he drips on, and then go over to his leads and look at how many of those agents actually refer him business.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to look at it. I mean, we've got 1, 2,
Oh,
3,
you're saying
4,
19 versus, yeah, 19 versus, yeah, so
10, 11, 12. He's got 12 agents in this month out of the 23, so half of them didn't refer him any business this month.
Yeah.
Which means that in order for him to get 23 leads, he has to have at least 23 realtors referring him business.
Gotcha. Yep.
And so your point to me a little while ago was, I don't have enough realtor relationships. Mark, I would love to hear your conversation with Scott on how you've been able to position yourself in front of these realtors, because I think that's one of the points that Scott maybe is lacking, the motivation or the confidence to be able to communicate to agents and show his value.
Yeah, a lot of the agents that are listed there, the prospects, were the listing agent on a contract that I may be working on. So they automatically go into my prospect list if I've qualified them that they can send me business. That was one thing that this spreadsheet helped, and Doug helped out.
Yeah.
Helped me identify who I should be going after and not just chasing everybody in the world. So if I get a contract, the listing agent I'll look them up to see what kind of business they do, and if I should spend time chasing them. And if they are someone like that, they'll go under that prospect list right away. And Thor's Hammer, it helped me meet a lot of people at first, and so some of the Thor's Hammer people are on that list. But that list is a combination of Thor's Hammer and listing agents that I qualified that do enough business. And
gotcha.
this sheet and Doug's coaching has helped me identify really that people that get you to one level sometimes can't take you to the next.
Makes sense. Yep. Okay.
Like Doug, if you scroll up on that sheet right there,
yep.
You'll see under the accounts, you'll see
right
Corey Guerrero. Yeah, Corey Guerrero. I've closed at least 4+ deals with those guys, but that's been over a couple of years' time, and they've really slowed down on the referrals, and so they may be somebody that I drop back out of that list and not spend as much time with those guys because their business doesn't seem to be. Those guys don't seem to be people that can take me to the next level.
Right.
Gotcha.
Scott, you have two people. You have Mark and I that obviously have had some success in our careers, and neither one of us are the the how do you want to call it, the churn 'em and burn 'em type. We're very relational based people. We believe that our businesses really grow and thrive when we really make strong connections with people, and we're not very transactional, to say the least. When you look at the way you want your business to be built, do you have an idea of what it looks like? I mean, do you have an idea of what you think works the best for you?
Well, I definitely the relationship one. That's definitely have to go deeper with the clients because I don't have enough. I mean, even if I wanted to go the other route, I don't have enough, 20 years of previous customers hit and miss and, no one coming in that way. So
right.
It's, in order to jumpstart it, I mean, that's definitely the way to do it, I mean, not happening with emails or just, shotgunning junk out there to see what comes,
So Mark, what did you do to meet? What do you do when you meet with a realtor for the first time?
And
Take for example a listing agent. What do you do? What's your approach with a listing agent when you're trying to get belly to belly with them?
Well, when I get a contract, I call the same day and I call the listing agent, and it's funny because they think that you're soliciting them. But you'll call them and say, hey, I'm Mark Zachary. I'll say Mark Zachary with Success Mortgage Partners, and they're like, yeah. And then when you say, hey, I'm handling the mortgage for your listing at blah blah blah, and I just want to let you know that you're going to get. I just want to introduce myself and let you know that I'll be calling you every week to give you an update on your listing, and you'll be getting milestone reports. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've never had a loan officer call and tell me that. And I say, well, that's just the way we do our business. That's the way I handle my business. And when we're done with this transaction, I'd like an opportunity to take you out and for a cup of coffee or go grab lunch. Are you open to that? Nice. And the immediate answer is yes. I mean, because they've never had a loan officer call them and introduce themselves. I ask, do we have a POA involved? Is your seller buying another house, and are we going to have a back-to-back closing? Are we going to have a mail out? I get all that information up front, and I let them know, hey, I want all this information up front so we can make sure this is a smooth transaction for you. And never have I been turned down for a listing agent to go have coffee with me because of that initial call.
Yeah, that's the perfect time.
If I was to call that realtor as a cold call, just straight out of the phone book or whatever, and I just ask them, hey, would you go grab coffee with me? 8 times out of 10, it's going to be no. But once it's a contract, and you do that, these guys are just like, wow, yeah, if you're going to communicate like that to me, no one else does that.
Yeah, no,
and then, when I ask them, what are you looking for in a lender? Because we may not be a match, and I think that's one thing Doug in this call has taught me is sometimes we're just not a match. I mean, maybe they're a difficult realtor to get along with, and I don't need realtors like that. So
let's just look at it. If you look at it from the standpoint of there's millions of people in the world who we will never get a chance to meet, and there's hundreds of people that we meet every single day, but we can probably count on one hand how many people we consider to be our closest friends. We don't have to have a relationship with everybody. And the sooner we're clear about what we will and will not tolerate out of our professional relationships, the clearer you will be on how you will align yourself with those agents that are actually meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, in my honest opinion, is that if I don't like you, if I don't feel like I could go and have a beer with you for 2 hours or go do something that we share in common together, then I don't want to do business with you. Because that means I don't care enough about you or what your values are. That makes me want to invest my time and my clientele into you. And I think each and every one of us lacks a little bit of that confidence as it relates to, we don't need 50 realtors sending us business. Truly, we need 5 to 10 really good agents who we consider friends, who professionally respect us, honor us, and we do the same in return. And I think once you've identified that that's your value, then it's easy to sit in front of an agent and go, you're not really a realtor. You're what I would consider you're dabbling in real estate to decide whether or not you want to become a realtor. And the reality is most agents, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, how many of them close less than, I don't know, an average realtor, I think, nationally makes less than $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that that's probably close to 80% of the population who have a real estate license.
Sure.
Well, there's 47,000 agents here in the Houston area, and I can guarantee you 10% of those are the ones that do most of the business.
Wow. Okay. So I love it. So Scott, the whole purpose of this call that we do weekly is to help develop your skill set into becoming more referable, meaning we want to teach you how to orchestrate referral moments. We want to teach you how to communicate to your realtors and your clients, and having an understanding of the reasons why and the purpose why you make your calls and connect with people. And I had asked you the other day to really kind of spend some time thinking about, what your value is to your clients and to your realtors. You had discussed with me yesterday about this restaurant in Portofino's, and I had given you a little bit of an assignment to say, can you communicate to me as a lender what your value is using the Portofino's mindset, and how you were able to refer me to them without them ever having to ask you to endorse them to any patron out there and out in your daily life.
Yeah, that's the thing I got to get my head around as far as actually figuring that part out. I mean, that's
Mark can speak very clearly about that, and I would love to hear Mark's response, because he went through a very similar transition.
Yeah, you're talking about my response to like just to combat the rate and points and all that?
No, you know what? Before that, you had to come to terms with your value as a professional, your value as a manager of this process, and you had to sit there in front of your clients and say, I already know who I am, and then you had to be able to communicate that to them in a way that makes them feel and understand your value to them beyond the rates and the fees and the costs.
Yeah. And that, one night I pretty much just started memorizing a skit, and not a skit, but a script. And it's actually a skit. When I meet with them, it's a skit. But it's an honest
I love it.
skit and an honest script. It's, hey, I've been doing this 22 years, and I don't just work with anybody. I take on about 10 to 15 clients per month, because I want to deliver at a service level that you're not going to get with anybody else. And if you and I choose to work together, that's great, but I want you to know I'm not going to be the cheapest guy in town, but I'm going to deliver a service that's going to blow your socks off, something along those lines. And but I let them know I only work with, and I'm speaking in future terms because I'm not doing 10 or 15 deals a month, but they don't know that. My goal is to do 10 or 15 a month, and if I choose to work with you, you're going to get a great experience, because I'm not trying to track down 50 realtors. I'm working with 5 or 10 or whatever that number is. But I let them know that, it's like Doug had said, I'm interviewing you as a client to make sure you work well with my team just as much as they are interviewing me to see if I'm a good fit for them. And
I love the word choose, who I choose to work with. You know what I mean? That's a powerful, control right there, It's who
in my meeting yesterday with that new realtor, I was letting her know the same thing, and I think at first they kind of look at you like, well, what do you mean you choose to work with me? Or, because it just totally shifts the way that you present things. It really does, when you really figure out that you're the expert, and that you don't have to have any one particular person to make a living for you.
I think what it does is it identifies to other people how focused and how clear you are. We've talked about this before as it relates to people are attracted to those individuals that make them feel like they don't have to worry, like they don't have to concern themselves because somebody's in control, somebody's got this figured out. We use the Home Depot analogy about building a treehouse and having somebody walk you through the entire process, and how you don't really care about all the incidentals, about how much a nail costs or how much a hammer costs, when you feel like you can accomplish your job because you've got somebody who's literally gone through it and is taken over, and they're crystal clear on what has to happen. That's why a doctor is so powerful, because we as people don't know what a doctor knows, and so we trust them emphatically based on their bedside manner. I think the same thing applies in that conversation, Mark, 100%. When you're crystal clear about what you are and why you will and will not work with people, it really puts people on their heels, because they've never been able, they themselves probably can't articulate to you what it is about them that makes people want to work with them, except using the same adjectives that everybody uses. Oh, I care, or I will always be there. So what you're telling me is that you work 24/7, and that no matter what, you will be a slave to the client so that you will get their business.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I was about to mention that in my conversation yesterday. I was telling this realtor, I said, my job is to help you grow your business, and if we choose together to work together, how do you want me to refer you? What would you want me to say to a client? And she was like, wow, I don't know. And she threw in some of the stuff that you just said, Doug. Well, I'm going to, work hard, I go above and beyond. And I'm like, everybody says that. What else can I say about you that will make you better than anybody else? And she was just stumped.
Yep, they don't have a response for it.
Yeah.
Nobody, when you ask people, because let's be clear here, and Mark, I know you and I have spoken about this, but Scott, you haven't heard me say this yet. When our clients sit in front of us, whether it's a realtor or whether it's a client, they're asking a very, very specific question in their head. Sometimes they ask it, most of the time they don't. And the question is very similar to, why should I work with you? That's why the costs, the fees, and the rate come up, because that's what they're trying to determine as to why they should work with you. Largely due in part because we as LOs and as consultants don't have a better answer for them. That's why we're treated like a commodity. It's because we believe we're a commodity, and we believe we're only as good as a commodity. And so when you ask your agents, what is it about them that makes people want to work with them, you'll be amazed at the lack of clarity these people have.
Sure.
And they'll give you adjectives that really surmise what everybody says. I work 24/7. I work weekends. I'll drop everything. I'll make it whatever it takes. That's a sign of weakness. There are very few realtors who actually can articulate what their value is to their clients that isn't around being available 24/7.
Yeah.
But if you learn some of the scripts and some of the strategies that I believe work, that I've had great experience with, and Mark's a testament to it. It's not that difficult to just put in a couple words and a couple sentences into your vocabulary that really shift the mindset of your clients and your realtors to see you as being something bigger and better than what everybody else is throwing at them. Mark, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a few phrases added to your conversation. It just almost eliminates that conversation about rates. I mean, there was one guy I took from Navy Federal Credit Union, which we've never been able to do that because Navy Federal just gives stuff away. But we got him, and he's closing next couple of days. But it was just, you take that conversation totally off by letting them know, look, I don't really have to have your business, and but if we get it, you're gonna have a great process. And yeah, absolutely, I agree with it.
Awesome.
Nice, yeah.
So Scott, I have a homework assignment for you, and it's a continuation of what we're discussing today and what we talked about yesterday. I really would like for you to reach out to me between now and next Wednesday, and I want to work with you on some conversation tools that will help you kind of position yourself differently in front of your clients. But that's only part of it, because I think one of the things that you're lacking is the number of at-bats. And the number of at-bats relates to actually finding creative ways to get out there and talk to your realtor group and exposing yourself to any realtors that they may introduce you to. Now, you may have done that already, but I would love to see the list of agents grow from, I think you send me one that has 4 or 5 on it, to at least 10 agents.
Exactly. Yep.
And not just people that you've got names and phone numbers for. I want you to have had conversations with them about trying to align yourself with their business. And I don't need you to meet with them, but I want you to have targeted them, and so I can help work with you on the conversation that you can have with them to help better align you with them.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Fair enough. Absolutely.
Awesome. Mark, congratulations again. It looks like you're going to have
Mark,
a great
thank you.
October. Thanks for your lead tracker and your consult today. I really appreciate it. I know Scott does as well. You guys have a
Thank you,
great
Mark.
afternoon, and we'll see you and talk to you guys all next week.